Well, good morning. How is everybody today? I have an audience right here. I love that. You get like a personal show today. It's such a special thing. You almost have the Science Center to yourself, too. That's pretty cool as well. I'm Jo Haas, and I'm the CEO of the Kentucky Science Center, and we are just thrilled today to showcase one of our newest partnerships with Baxter's Corner. I was tickled, really, to discover a local company with local leadership, local authors, local artists who were working in very much the same space as Kentucky Science Center in that realm of early childhood education. Our work in many ways mirrors that of the Baxter Corner team in that we're working to empower parents who have children in that early childhood space and encourage those parents to get engaged with their children and participate in the learning process with children and really help boost social emotional skills in addition to academic skills. We're also very much about the softer side of early childhood education. Of course, we want all children to arrive in kindergarten ready to learn, but we also want them to arrive at school with skills such as persistence and compassion and focus and the ability to collaborate with one another. And so really, I think that is the intersection between where the Baxter's Corner books are leading parents and children and where the Science Center is working and how those things come together. So I'm thrilled that we can be a distribution outlet and a sales outlet for these products. You're going to hear a little bit more about Baxter's Corner this morning and one of the newest books hitting the market. And we've got a few special folks with us today. We first are going to hear from Reverend Tracy Holliday, who's the Executive Director of the Cabbage Patch Settlement House. So, Dr. Holliday, please.
So having worked with kids for almost 40 years in one capacity or another, it occurs to me that children may feel that they don't have the opportunity to develop much of their own narrative in those early years of life because adults are telling them where to go, what to do, what to learn, all those different things that go into childhood, and that's appropriate in many ways. But this we do know, that children do have a story, they do have a narrative. Sometimes they like to invent that narrative with weird kind of creatures, like maybe, giraffes that talk, or octopi that talk, or space trips, etc. They have a great imagination, they have great creativity, and they want to tell a story. And what we also find, and we have found in our partnership with Baxter's Corner, is that elements of their story wind up getting into a story, even if it's about, various strange things going on. So we have been very proud to have a great partnership with Baxter's Corner for the last 3.5 years. They have done 6 different camps with us, both storytelling and illustration, some aspects of publishing books. And what happens is that those students then produce a product in a week. Now, I don't know how long it takes you, Mary Ellen, to write a book, or Linda, but this is sort of writing books on steroids, and we do it, or they do it, very quickly. And they even produce a paperback copy of that book before the end of the week. So our kids, many of whom came to us with reading deficits, and the reason they say they have reading deficits is they don't think reading's fun, find out that A, reading can be fun, B, when you produce your own material, it's even more fun, and they walk out of that camp being, quote, published authors. And I can just bet you that those books are sitting on the shelf somewhere at home or on the coffee table or wherever, and that when Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Sue and Uncle Bob and neighbors and friends come over, those kids are showing that book off. So it builds self-esteem. It helps them realize that reading can be fun. It can be interesting. We see about 80% of our kids have reading deficits of some sort. They are not reading at grade level when they come to us. And hopefully part of our job clearly is to make sure that turns around. So this kind of partnership where people who understand kids, who understand what kids needs, who understand valuing kids, and integrate in their various books. This is a book that the Cabbage Patch Camps produce, and it does exactly those same things Jerry talks about. It talks about understanding differences and compassion and negotiation and all those kinds of skills that go into turning young people into successful adults. So we're thrilled to have been part of what Baxter's Corner is doing. They have done many more things than what they've done with us, but we're thrilled to be a part of it and hope that it continues for a long time.
Thank you. You know, listening to Reverend Holliday, it occurs to me, too, that one of the other things that the Science Center is, of course, all about is helping children and adults see learning in their everyday world. And so, you know, just standing back a moment ago and looking at this array of delightful animals, which provide really the portal for these stories, is as much in alignment with our mission as anything else about these books. And so I think, and that's really where you come in, Mary Ellen Stopman, who is the illustrator, although you're called the Chief Crayon, which is clever. I might want a title like that. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, but maybe I need to be something else, something more fun than that. And also, of course, the managing partner of Baxter's Corner, Mary Ellen. Yay.
So I'm not spontaneous. I've written a script, and Susan, I'm going to go off script. Because they've introduced us, and I want you to really focus on these animals. They were first bought at Lynn's Paradise Cafe, where she has exotic things, and they were all puppets. And it was for my new grandchild to be, my very first one, who ended up being Baxter, by the way. My daughter Barbara said, nope, we're not going to put cows and chickens and things like that. I want something that I can teach differences and compassion. I mean, she just went into everything Joe said. It's as though you all knew each other then. And they are
know each other now.
So it was amazing. And all right, whoever heard of a tarantula in a nursery, this will be the first I've ever heard of it. It was always precious and yellow, and because you didn't even know what kind of child you were, male or female. You knew what kind of child you were going to have, a human being. But anyway, that kind of gives you my background of how we got to where we were, having hours of conversation with her on how to raise a child gave me the idea to have a to write the stories. And I mean, just hours of conversation about all the stories we could write, and it was all for the age group we're after right now, up to about 5 or 8 depending. And I decided to do this. Anybody can write a story. All you have to do is tell them what to do, what the story should be. And I must have had 25 people say, oh, that's a great idea. A few of them did write it, but it was age inappropriate. It was a huge chapter book and too many things. And I didn't even know what we were looking for. So anyway, I finally, 7 years after he was born, I met Linda. And Linda, whom you will hear from soon, she and I were friends. But I do want to read on script about why we're here at Science Center. Because there were words they were saying that were so important. And Joe took us around to the science and play area here at the Science Center, and it teaches skills to children 8 and younger. Powie, I heard that. And I was so excited, with their families through the power of play. Well, guess what our byline is? Building characters, child's play. I mean, it's like we stole that from each other. And it just felt like a perfect fit. And I am just so excited that they are considering us a partner. I mean, being a brand new team business out there. That I think I'm just elated. Can you tell? I'm nervous too. I don't know why, because this is what I know the best. And the book we're going to be showing you today is a hardback book. But before we go any further, I also want you to notice this book is got Braille on top of it. And through the story. So we've been working with a printing house, American Printing House for the Blind. And all we need to do is figure out how many children under age 5 could use our book, and we'll be publishing this one for sure to give to them. And I want to introduce one of my very best friends now, Linda Vilwalk Baker. She's got another letter in her name, but I can't remember what that stood or walked or. There you go. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out. We're really excited about our new book, Gerome Sticks His Neck Out, and it's a story that highlights compassion. And to what Joe mentioned and Reverend Holliday about the types of traits that character traits we would like to develop in kids and see them develop. And so compassion, each of our books focuses on a character trait, and Gerome has a challenge. Have you ever felt ungiraffable? Have you ever felt ungiraffable? Jerome's a young giraffe who doesn't like to stick out in a crowd, and so he develops a strategy to keep his head low to the ground so he won't stick out, and that works for a while, except keeping a low profile doesn't feel quite right for him. So he feels ungiraffable. And he realizes in the course of stepping out to help a friend, he sticks his neck out to help a friend who's being bullied. And he not only then makes a new friend, but he figures out the advantages of his height. So he fully embraces being a giraffe. And you might ask why we're doing this. Mary Ellen told a little bit about the history of her lovely artwork that she developed purposefully with her daughter for her grandson Baxter's nursery, and how that developed into this idea to develop a line of stories that were values-based. And from that, it's grown a lot because we've seen, I was blessed to join Mary Ellen in this grand venture, and over time, we've witnessed a few trends. And one of them are the trend of unacceptable behavior becoming more the norm these days. When you have a school system, the largest in the state, that has a difficulty recruiting bus drivers because of the bad behavior on buses, when you have malls that have to institute new security policies to have young people chaperoned by adults because of behavior that has disrupted businesses in the past, when you have young middle schoolers that are attacking people on our new walking bridge, that kind of raises some flags. We're not the only ones who've noticed that there are issues. The school system, as well as many organizations for years, have been stepping up to do this social emotional learning, and that's become a very important new focus of the schools. But the sad thing is, they've had to develop a whole new department to do the work that used to be done in homes and other aspects of life. So before they can teach the reading, writing, arithmetic, they're now having to step up and do this behavior training. And so, we figured that we want to be part of that. And how we're doing that is we've done research. We know that early childhood is the time when behavior patterns are instilled and have a lasting impact. And so that's why we focus on these books for very young children, because we would like to, share stories stories and get information out about these basic character traits that are so important for the future. We also know that there are a number of social factors that have increased the need for this. Everything from absent parents, single parents, the growth in single parent households, the number of children that are dealing with homelessness, the number of children who are have incarcerated parents, and then just the general busyness of life that for some reason has let some of this basic training kind of slide off the radar. And we know that many of the messages in our culture promote instant gratification and self-promotion and even violence. And so we hope our stories can counter some of those messages. We wanted to do something about it. And so we also want to make it easy for parents and caregivers and teachers to be able to have discussions with their kids about these character traits. And so in addition to the fun, we hope our fun stories to get the kids' attention, we also have at the back of every book a section called Go Beyond, which provides an experience and an opportunity for the parents and caregivers to have questions. There are fun animal facts about the characters that are featured, but also we have some social skill building activities. And we hope that it turns story time into an opportunity to have those discussions about behavior and about choices. And to that end, Gerome Sticks His Neck Out features a new element called a stop and think page. And that talks about what are your choices in a given situation? And, it's just an opportunity to dialogue with your child about, in this case, if you're being bullied or a friend is being bullied, what can you do? And what are your options? And it's not you should do this, it's more an opportunity to discuss what can be done to address those. And so, to reach the kids, we're partnering with organizations like the Science Center and Cabbage Patch to reach, to get our books out and the stories and the opportunities to do a variety of work that support this message about character building. And so thank you for coming out today to learn a little bit more about Gerome Sticks His Neck Out. And we thank you for your time and look forward to having more books for you in the future.
It strikes me as we wrap up this morning that with our Science and Play initiative, we have been in the midst of about a 5 or 6 year project, and we've done an extensive amount of research around the impact of science and play on parents and caregivers and their perceptions of school readiness and their perceptions and practices for at-home learning. And one of the things that research has continued to show us is that over and over, parents wish to understand more and know more and have more tools for how to extend learning with their children. So this key piece about the back end of these books now that really give parents concrete ways, not answers, not questions and answers, but ways for opening conversations, ways for engaging in discussion and brainstorming with even very young children about the options that are available to them is not just empowering for kids. You were talking about children seeing themselves in the stories that they write. And so certainly those kinds of conversations are very important and empowering for children. But for parents, every parent wants to be a good parent. There is no exclusivity on that. Every parent across every socioeconomic background, platform wants to be a good parent. And they need help in how to do that. And so that is really the back part of these books are extraordinary. So if you haven't seen that, take a moment as we wrap up today to do that. I don't know if we're going to actually tell the story today. If we'd like to do that as we break up, and then anybody who would like to do signed copies, I know you all are welcome to do that as well. So thank you again for being with us to share this great partnership with Baxter's Corner.
I know of two friends, an unlikely pair. The bond they share is quite special and rare. Before they were friends, each one was alone, until one stuck his neck out, and that one was Gerome. Gerome had always been taller than the kids that he knew. He was 3 times as tall by the time he was 2. He did not like being different, he just wanted to fit. He stuck out in a crowd and he did not like it one bit. Instead of standing up tall, Gerome hung his head low. They won't see me and laugh if I stay low when I go. He no longer stuck out, his height no longer laughable, but with his head hanging low, he felt most ungiraffable. Gerome longed for a friend, just one friend, he would sigh, a friend who won't laugh when I hold my head high. One day after school, Gerome passed through the park. He noticed some kids by a tree, tall and dark. "Let's see," said one kid, swinging a stick in the air, "just how strong is that limb that is holding you there?" With the stick, the kid prodded a brown hairy lump. With the next poke of the stick, Gerome saw the lump jump. Why, it wasn't a lump or a bump after all. It was a hairy tarantula curled up in a ball. The kid with the stick was being meaner than mean. He kept poking and prodding through leaves dark and green. "Oh dear," thought Gerome, "this is not right at all. Would no one help the spider? No one at all? I cannot stand by and watch him fall from the tree. The tarantula needs someone, and that someone is me." Gerome did not want to be noticed, but how else could he help? As his concern grew for the spider, he grew less concerned for himself. Preparing to face them, Gerome stiffened his spine. He swallowed his fears and strode to the pine. He reached his full height and found no need to fear. Those kids at the tree looked quite small from up here. Larger by far than the kids by the tree, Gerome walking tall was impressive to see. "Stop, drop that stick, quit being so mean," demanded Gerome, his head up in the tree. "Thank you for helping," the tarantula said, as he dropped from the limb to land on Jerome's head. The kid with the stick just could not believe that Gerome had stood up. This Gerome would not leave. The kids saw Gerome towering. They did not stick around. In fact, the one with the stick dropped the stick to the ground. "It took courage to help, and you were quite up to the task. Would you be my friend?" the tarantula asked. "I'm Tajo," he said, as he smiled at Gerome. Gerome smiled right back, no longer feeling alone. Gerome stuck his neck out for Tajo out on a limb. That's how these two met and became the closest of friends. The end. Don't you think it's funny that a giraffe and a tarantula can be friends? A very tall giraffe and a small spider. They're friends. Did you see the picture of them in the back where they, let's see, where he's landing on his head? Well, here's one where he's sitting on his neck. And they became friends. They're very different from each other, but they became friends. Do you remember why they became friends?
Why did they become friends? What did Gerome do? I don't know. He's staying close.
Did he help him out? Tajo was being teased by some kids. The kids were poking at him with a stick, and Gerome was worried about him. So he walked over and said, "Hey, stop being so mean to this little guy." And the little tarantula said, "Hey, thank you so much for standing up for me. I appreciate that." And so that's how they became friends. So, and in the back of the book are just some questions and facts about giraffes. Do you know about giraffes?
I've seen Jack at the zoo.
Have you seen giraffes at the zoo? Did we use the word towering in the story, and do you know why? That's what they call a group of giraffes. They're called a tower of giraffes. I didn't know that. They also have extremely long tongues that stick out and can fit into their ear.
The giraffe's tongue can go all the way to his ear.
And the spots on a giraffe, you see all these spots on the giraffe? Each giraffe has their own spots and no two are alike, just like a human fingerprint. Thank you for coming and listening to Gerome Sticks' Neck Out.